I'm Jenny Carlson here with Kyle Fredrickson. We're in Stillwater, where today Oklahoma State held its spring football game, and the Black won. As it were, most people were here to watch different individuals, units, to see how they've evolved. And Kyle, I think maybe the first sort of sit-up in your chair moment was actually a 50-yard field goal by a guy named Matt Amendola, and frankly, we all had to check our rosters to see what his name was. But tell us a little bit about this guy, because he sounds like he might be a name to remember for the fall.
Right. You know, here was a guy from just outside of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. The first time he was on our radar was for a YouTube trick shot video, believe it or not. He had a big leg, was doing some crazy things, spin the ball. Well, he ends up getting a preferred walk-on offer to come to OSU. Makes the long trip out here, always kind of with the vision of being a kickoff specialist. He got with that big leg, and he showed it today. 51-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal, a couple touchbacks, something that the Cowboys need. I think at this point, Ben Grogan's job is pretty safe, but at least now there's a little bit of pressure should Grogan struggle to kick it out of the end zone next season, or if some of those field goal troubles return. So certainly a bright spot and something to really look forward to on this team, among some other maybe not so glaring and impressive storylines from a pretty basic day here at the spring game.
Well, I say shocking because 50 yards from a guy not named Ben Grogan, you sort of think this is going to end badly, and yet he makes it. Maybe the first ooh-ah moment was the first snap of the game, which was a Taylor Cornelius 75-yard touchdown pass to Juwan Seals, a little pass over the middle, and when Juwan Seals gets away from defenders, nobody's going to catch him. But Kyle, it looks to me like Taylor Cornelius is likely to be that backup quarterback.
After today, I mean, I would say that's probably the case. Now, there's going to be summer conditioning. There's going to be fall camp. John Kolar is going to have another say in this thing. But everything we've heard about Cornelius really came to fruition today. That big arm, that 6'6" frame, being able to get outside the pocket, not with J.W. Walsh type of mechanics or footwork, but able to navigate himself and make plays. So a good sign for them. You know, I think this is a season where you really got to make sure Mason Rudolph stays healthy, because even though Cornelius was impressive today, we're talking about a guy who hasn't had any game experience to speak of other than a few snaps against Kansas last year. But some good signs from him, some good deep balls, and also on the flip side of that, some impressive defensive play at times. A few turnovers. Madre Harper is a true freshman who made an interception, a few sacks by the young defensive ends. So there are some guys on that side of the ball who impressed as well.
Yeah, not a lot of talk in the spring about defense, just doesn't quite get the pub that the offense does. But I do think it's interesting offensive line. I mean, a little bit of a disadvantage is because of the split squad nature of things today. The offensive line doesn't have its unit entirely together, but we definitely saw some struggles. Now, if you talk to Oklahoma State coaches and players, they say the struggles we saw today are not indicative of the spring, but is there a sense of where this offensive line is compared to last season?
It's hard to say at this point. I think just for the fan psyche, it would have been nice to see Chris Carson get in the end zone. You know, the only rushing touchdown today is a designed Mason Rudolph run. We're not going to see that in the fall. So more than anything, it would have been nice for them to think, okay, here's something tangible we can hold on to. We didn't get that today. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Like you mentioned, with the split teams, it's hard to say where they're at. But from everyone's accounts throughout spring ball, you know, this is an improved group, and they really don't have an excuse not to be. When you return every single starter, you bring in a junior college transfer and Larry Williams. You know, there's every reason to be optimistic with this group. I think we're really just going to have to wait until fall to find out.
Yeah. Oklahoma State offensive coordinator Mike Yursich telling me that they really cut back the run package, so basically 4 base plays to get that offensive line really meshing and focusing on the basics, the fundamentals, to make sure they knew exactly what they were going to get out of guys. Let's hear what players and coaches had to say after today's spring game.
The scrimmage went good for us from a health standpoint. We were able to tackle and had a physical scrimmage. We had 100 plays, and I was pleased. I thought the defense played really, really well. Some guys made plays, and we were able to run some of our offense and have a good day. I thought we kicked the ball well. I thought we punted the ball well. For the most part, other than Zach in our special teams, those are all new faces out there, and I thought Taylor did a good job of directing the Black offense for the first time being out there. So overall, it's a good day for us.
Well, you know, you'd like to pick up the tempo a little bit more, and that's nobody's fault but my own. You know, we tried to slow it down and make sure that we're getting plays communicated. You know, I liked the Black team obviously came out and scored right away. You know, opening drive, we stress opening drive scores very much, so it's good to see them come out and play. And then we with the orange team, more consistency, moving the chains and getting it going and more rhythm. And you know, typical of spring. In my experience, in spring games, it's hard to get that rhythm going for whatever reason. And obviously, we need to take care of the ball. You know, you can't turn it over. Never like turnovers. And you know, you try to run a reverse, and the timing between the second receiver and the first receiver didn't gel real well there. And obviously the ball was on the ground, but you know, just those sorts of things, the turnovers. But the good side is scoring the opening half or first play really of the scrimmage was real good to see.
Well, I mean, we narrowed the play calls today because it was a spring game. So Coach Yurchis has got a lot of still up his sleeve, and you know he failed to show today. And so we're going to keep working on what we got. You know, whether it's basic stuff or whether it's new tweaks. You know, our guys are they're self-motivated, they're self-driven, and you know it doesn't take much to try to get them. You know, the receivers out and throwing, and a lot of guys are getting some extra work in. So that won't be an issue. No matter how we're split up, the offense always wants to, score the ball and eliminate the turnovers. So, some little things here and there to clean up. But, I was, real proud of Corn and John for the way they played.
Yeah, I like the speed. We made some mistakes. It gave up a few big plays, but I think they were all real young kids, freshmen or first semester in school here. So I can't let that tee me off too bad, but I am upset about it. Turnovers were good, and those only happen if you got guys flying to the ball and being there when the opportunity comes. With 5 or 6 starters out, I was a little concerned. I was asking somebody before the game if anybody's ever gotten fired from a spring game before, but it turned out okay.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Just having fun flying around with my teammates, trying to get better every day. It's a process, as Coach Gundy says, so we're having a good time out here, really getting better every day. Yeah, we got a few turnovers. We really stopped the offense pretty cold today, and that was our mission from the first day of spring, and it just feels good to be able to put all the hard work into production on the field. So.
And now the Cowboys head into off-season conditioning, finishing up the spring semester. What really is next for this team?
I think there's a incoming freshman class that has some really intriguing prospects. Calvin Bundage at linebacker. Is he a true freshman, being a 4-star guy, one of their highest-rated recruits? Can he contribute right away? They bring in 5 or 6 offensive linemen. Are any of those guys going to be able to come in? Tremonda Moore, he was making headlines, saying that he wasn't going to be eligible. Mike Gundy said he was going to be. So what's going to happen there? A lot of question marks, but overall there's a lot of optimism for this team. I mean, if they can stay healthy and establish a run game, some of those defensive newcomers step up into big roles, I don't see why it's not a team that can at least be in the conversation for a Big 12 title once we really get into November.
Tremonda Moore on hand today, as was another guy that'll be wearing the Cowboy orange in the fall, Barry J. Sanders. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.